All righty, what's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another market update. Hope everybody's having a lovely day. And with that being said, let's dive into the TA. All right, guys, we're going to start off here with SPY, QQQ, IWM, VIX. We'll go over the Mag 7 stocks, and then I have some stocks that are making moves that you can put on your radar. All right, SPY, guys, we did end up pushing up from yesterday. We were right around the 4-hour 21 EMAs all the way down here. We did not end up breaking underneath 619.52. That was yesterday's low. No reason to worry, guys. We gapped up, we pulled back, and we got bought up in the end of the day. Above 624.03, above today's high, which is going to be 624.72. We're pushing 626.28. All-time highs is probably coming tomorrow. Above 626.28, expect a test of 630 in the short term. Could happen this week. On the downside, we have 622.11, 620.91, and then 619.52. Underneath 619.52, you're probably going to take out 617.87 and start coming down to 613.23. Coming over here to QQQ. On the upside, guys, we have 557.20. Above 557.20, guys, we're talking 560. Probably, if SPY makes new all-time highs tomorrow, this is probably going to 560 tomorrow. Above there, 565. On the downside, we have 554.34, 552.80, 551.10, and 549.58. All right, coming over here to IWM, this thing did strongly push back up today. And guess what, guys? Next stop is 227.98. You really don't have, much going on in between here. If I was to put on an extra level, I would give you 226.14. Above 223, we could very well make our way up to 226 in the short term. Look at how the weekly chart is coming together. This weekly candle is about to expand. I imagine we get 225 or 226 this week. VIX, what do we got over here, guys? We were targeting a new low, and we did get that new low. That is what was looking likely as of yesterday. We ran through everything. We ran through how the indices were looking, how the Mag 7 stocks were looking, how VIX was looking. And, we definitely had to lean bullishly. We had to lean that buyers were going to be taking the wheel again because, VIX over here, it was a heavy factor. We did also just have a lot of things looking like we're probably going to be breaking up. And, I do still think SPY, all-time highs incoming. QQ might have made it, but SPY lagging behind, about to play some catch up. And then you can actually come over here to DIA, and we talked about this, guys. Any dip before all-time highs over here, we know it's going to be bought up to all-time highs. All right, that's exactly what we have over here. And if you weren't going to get bought up over here, you probably get bought up sometime in the middle of next week down here, and then all of a sudden you're back up at all-time highs. There's no reason to really be bearish in the market right now. There's really not. Worst case scenario, you get a few weeks of consolidation before moving up. But, might not remind everyone, we just had a bunch of consolidation going on SPY, QQQ, on most, tickers here for quite some time. All right. Now it's time to have that impulse move up, and that's exactly what's going on. All right. Expect these highs on SPY, 626.28, to be taken out probably tomorrow. Above there, 630. All right, so that's SPY, QQ, IWM, and VIX. We're going to come over and review the Mag 7 stocks, guys. Today, Amazon pushed all the way back up here and did not end up breaking above this high right here at 224.29, but it did get actually equal high, 224.29. Tomorrow, this 224.29 high, it likely breaks. If not tomorrow, then on Friday. This thing is very likely going to see this turn into a green hammer candlestick on the week. I think we get 227, 228. I think it's on the table this week. All right, that is Amazon. Coming over here to Apple. Started finding buyers off of 209.48. We said it's either going to be 209.48 or 206.24. It does look like we started finding buyers off of 209.48. 3 days in a row here. Today we printed a bullish hammer candlestick as you got pretty close to the daily 21. We talk about mean reversion a good amount on the channel here. When things are extended, we look for the mean reversion. That's where the setups are going to be. Guess what? This thing just reverted to the mean. It's probably going to start pushing back up. We know from the fact that we closed out like this, told us that this dip was likely to be bought. We didn't know which level it would be bought up from, but we knew one of two levels was likely to be supported. 209.48 ends up bringing in the buyers above 211.43. Yesterday's high. We can start moving back up to 214.56. Above there, guys, you get a daily close above that level. 219.38 comes quick, then I imagine the 200 DMA, which is right at 223. I don't have it here on the chart right now, but it's at 223. Imagine that comes pretty quick. All right, that is Apple. Microsoft, well, oh, it was looking pretty obvious like we were going to be breaking up. I pointed out yet in yesterday's video, I think it was 6 out of 7 Mag 7 stocks were suggesting we were probably going to be seeing upside. You know, when things come together like that, yeah, we're probably going to be seeing upside. It's the same, you know, same dots I connected today, intraday, that told me we're probably going to be pushing to the upside. No, we don't know these things are going to happen, but we can always see where the probabilities are leaning. And they've definitely remained in the bull's favor. All right, but Microsoft got a high of 506.78. You did break above 576, and I'd say, yeah, you got 505 pretty quick. Next stop above 506.78 is 510. All right, we got a bunch of 7-Eleven calls that came in today, not at highs, but not at lows. All right, somewhere over here, which tells us we probably are going to be pushing, you know, higher, likely up to 510 this week. Okay, weekly chart doesn't look all that bad. You're breaking up from this consolidation. Probably just going to keep stair-stepping your way up, honestly. Coming over to GOOG, guys, all right? Got a bearish catalyst, but, you know, honestly, I can't imagine people are really going to be going over to a ChatGPT search engine instead of using Google. I'd much rather just use Google. I imagine, you know, this is something that if it's really going to affect Google's, you know, actual user, you know, database there, then I would assume that takes 10 to 20 years as generations die off and people, you know, the newer age starts using some of the newer technology. But I don't think Google's going anywhere anytime soon. I don't think this really affects the fundamentals, but OpenAI, ChatGPT will have a search engine. All right. But yeah, I mean, it did end up having a pretty nasty sell that then got bought up, and now we close the day out with this doji candlestick. I think this is very likely still going to be pushing up from here. Same setup as Amazon, except I'd say you have a lot more consolidation going on here. This is still just a break and retest off the top of that previous range until proven otherwise. All right. Still bullish on Google. NVIDIA. All right, guys. NVIDIA, are you really that bearish on this guy? I'm telling you, I'm not. All right. You got increasing volume on the day. I know you got that nice upper wick there. I think we're probably going to hit 165 here in the short term. Okay, the high of day was 164.42. We're ever so close there. I think we're probably going to get that, and maybe 167. All right, that is NVIDIA. Coming over to Meta. All right, Meta did end up getting that move we talked about in yesterday's video. All right, maybe I was saying it wasn't going to get up to, well, I didn't think it would get up to here, but I did think it was looking pretty crazy over here, getting real tight over here on the 4-hour, and I thought we could get a nice pop up to 730, 735. I think those are the levels I mentioned in yesterday's video. Went a little above there today. We went to 737.53. Now, above 737.53, we are probably going straight to 747.90. There was about it was 8.8 mil that came in today on 815. 735, see, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. The guy paid like $3,600 a contract, if I'm remembering correctly. All right, either way. Yeah, quite a bit. Someone threw quite a bit over here on these. They're not short dated, but you know, they're a month out, month and 1 week out there. Yeah, Meta's probably going to be pushing higher. Okay, it is probably going to continue pushing here. I don't know if it's going to make that move off earnings, but I'll tell you in the short term here, yeah, I think it's probably going to be pushing up above 747.90, and maybe we get 760. That's Meta. Tesla, all right, not something you should be going along on. Yeah, I will stand by that. It's the only one really getting a lot of shorter dated put flow. Now, I will say there is a lot of longer dated put flow on SPY and the broad market and NVIDIA and, you know, all of these stocks we just talked about, IWM especially as well. You know, there is a lot of dated put flow. We're talking 2026 calls, or not calls, 2026 puts, 2027 puts. Straight up. I think these guys are a little bit early, specifically over here, IWM, you know, they started coming in before we took out this high. And, you know, I told the Discord, I think it's early. All right. Why? Because you don't usually, like, we gapped up here. We didn't take out this high. Normally, you don't get that perfect looking double top. You want to talk about the perfect looking double top. All right. It's the same thing I pointed out on Amazon. That's going to be breaking. Well, the same thing over here on AVGO. What happens? The dip gets bought. That's what happens pretty much every single time you print something like this. What happens over here? The dip gets bought. AVGO is another one, I think, above 280. We're talking 285 can come pretty quick there. All right, does not look bad by any means. Probably going to keep grinding higher there. But you got this little range going on here, and you're probably about to get a nice 6 points to the upside. All right, which brings you 284 around there. Okay. All right, so Mag 7 stocks, everything but Tesla's looking pretty bullish as of right now. Looks like we can definitely continue pushing. All right, does not look bad. Now let's talk about our trade ideas. First things first, guys. Bitcoin ended up freaking exploding. Let's talk about it. All right, MSTR finally fucking moved. All right. Finally started moving there. We started moving. We started grooving. Coin is also going. I think it's probably going to have a boom kind of move to end off the week. If you would like to come trade with us, I'm live every single day. You can use code MSTR for 50% off of your first month. This is the play that I've been pounding the absolute table. I'm telling you guys, all right? I'm sometimes early, but I'm usually not wrong. Sometimes I am wrong, but most of the time, nah, if something's not going my way, just give it some time. It's probably going to end up playing out over here, at least on, the plays that I pound the table on. But over here, MSTR, guys, the past week and a half or so, this whole freaking, since we were all the way down here, okay, maybe you made some money on this move, maybe you sold and didn't have to go through this crap over here, but this thing has been in frustrating consolidation for a week and a half now. It always wants to trick people before it wants to make those moves, but now we can see this weekly candle is likely going to start expanding above the previous range there. And, anytime this really happens, we go for quite a ride, all right? Whether you want to go for 30 points above, whether you want to go for another about 30 points above, whether you just want to do the 16, regardless, all right? We're probably into end of week going to come up here and tag 430. All right, so I think that move happens into end of week, but I'm serious, guys. This is going to be our little money printer over the next few weeks. Once this higher time frame break of structure happens, last two occurrences were right over here. All right, we see what happens. Okay, dips are going to be buying opportunities, but honestly, this rip is going to be nice. It's going to surprise a lot of people. I think we got a 50 to 100 point move loading, and today that shit started. All right, and what also started, Bitcoin freaking got up to a new all-time high. You actually stalled out right at 112K. You got 112.040. Okay, you went $40 above 112 right there, 40 points. This thing is likely going to be pushing 115 in the short term. I think 120 is going to be following that, but maybe that does take, maybe we consolidate for a little while following this little leg up. I think we're probably going to get 114, 115 before that consolidation starts, though. If we do end up not breaking over today, you have 2 hours left in this daily candle here on Bitcoin, 2 hours, 35 minutes. All right. If you do end up not breaking up 112, I think you're going to do it on the next daily candlestick and you go at least a little bit, further, just like you did over here. All right. Even if it is just going to sweep the high, it's going to be like that over there. $1,000. Okay, you still got just about 1,000 points above this previous high. So far we haven't even gotten that. That means we're coming up to 113K. All right, so I'm just going to tell anybody, if you're in short-term MSTR calls, I'm telling you, the move, it's going to be ripping over the coming weeks. You don't, now that you caught this little piece of the pie there, you got it. Okay, you got it. I'm telling you, if you want a stress-free, really, really clean, really easy trade for yourself here, August 1st calls, August 15 calls, okay? Buy some time and let this thing work because this is about to do some crazy shit. I think Coinbase is also about to do some crazy things, all right? It's currently sitting at 373. If it gets above 382, which it already broke above where it rejected, first of all, earlier today, all right? Early today you rejected here, but you also rejected yesterday. Now you get above. Now the 4-hour chart looks like this. This thing is probably going to break above 382 tomorrow, and if it can get above 382, guys, it's probably going straight to $400. All right, once it's above 400, we're talking 430. All right, you want to talk about the other crypto stocks, the miners, they're also looking like they can rip. All right, that's Mara. Here's Riot. Here's CLSK. Here's Hut. And here's Iron. And here's Cypher. All of these I just pointed out there. Real quick, they're also probably going to rip, but I'm telling you, the biggest boy of them all, MSTR over here, looks like it's about to make a crazy move. All right, I've been pounding the table on it. The move's about to be starting, ladies and gents. I think Coinbase is also going to be going for a ride. Regardless, Bitcoin just started that move. I think we at least get 114, 115K before that consolidation. Then we get 120, 125K following that over the next 2 to 3 weeks. That's the game plan on Bitcoin. All right. Moving on. PayPal, guys, is pulling back into the daily 21, pulling back in 74.15 where it broke out from. You can see here on the weekly time frame, this is a month and a half of consolidation in what looks to be a 5-point range. A 5-point move above 74.15 brings you right here to 79. That's where we have the 0.618 fib. Right here, I don't have it on the chart, but this is where the 200 daily moving averages and is also where you broke down from, so no wonder you're finding sellers there. But I think this dip is going to be bought up, and then if you take it over 76.46 again, probably heading straight to 79 bucks. Okay, so that is PayPal. PLTR, it is looking like a monster again. It's looking like it wants to push right back up to highs, so I think that's probably going to happen. I was telling the Discord as soon as tomorrow, honestly, it could come up to 144.86. Currently sitting around 140. It's before you broke out from over here. It's literally saying right down here, right when you start pushing back up. If you could take out 141, it's got nothing until 144.86. I do think that's a move that's probably going to happen over, probably this week. And then probably next week, you're going to take out 148.22, get back up these highs. That's how it's shaping up to me. Leaders are going to lead. I don't know why people get bearish on these things. I really don't, but leaders are going to lead. SMCI, guys, I think this big move can start tomorrow. If you see the gap up, all right, if you see the gap up and the gap up, it turns into a gap and go and you close the week. All right, not close the week. If you close the day without filling that gap, I think the move just started. Either way, above 50.61, this thing looks absolutely sick. You got a very nice, tight, coiled up base you're breaking out of here on the weekly time frame. And once you broke out of that, you're now consolidating right here in the upper end of it, right underneath your 50.61 key breakout level you need to get above. Consolidating the bull flag right underneath it as moving averages catch up, guys. This is looking gnarly. All right, above 50.61, we're talking 56.19 comes quick. Above there, 60 psych level, and then 67.10. It's looking freaking insane. This is something that's probably going to be starting to move tomorrow, if I'm thinking correctly here. Well, if this wants to, behave how it's looking like it's going to behave, then yeah, tomorrow it's going to start that move. I'm telling you, though, all of these rip river moves, they gap up, they don't fill the gap. All of them. Every single one of them. All right, right over here, the second the move started up here, right here from the bottom, gap up didn't fill the gap up because you would have had to come all the way down here. Gap up, you didn't fill it. Gap up, you didn't fill it. Gap up, you didn't fill it. None of these you filled it until, boom, you started to actually not gapping up there. And, oh, it was the beginning of consolidation. Then, boom, you gapped up, you didn't fill it. You gapped up, you didn't fill it. You gapped up, you did fill it. It was the beginning of the end. All right, and that's just something that you can also find over here for this whole run. All right, you just didn't fill the gaps the whole time until, when you finally started doing so. It was the beginning of the end. You gapped up right here. It was the beginning of the end. All right, so if you gap up tomorrow, you could take the entry off the open there. All right, it's probably not going to gap up all that much. And if it does fill that gap and you want to just hop out of your short-dated calls, there you go. All right, but in reality, I think if you gap up above 50.61, I don't think it's going to fill the gap, but I think we're going to start that rip river move. So here it is. It's now on your radar. All right, guys, that's what I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please just remember to leave a like. That's all I ask. You guys are really helping grow the channel. It's a slow grower, okay? It doesn't move too much, but over time, we're going to accumulate mass here on this YouTube platform. All right, but all I ask is that you leave a like on our video. So the YouTube algorithm can see that people like it and there's valuable content here and it should share it to the rest of the world. All right, with that being said, guys, if you want to come trade with me, 50% off your first month is going to be code MSTR. Just a reminder, if I didn't already make it abundantly clear earlier in the video, this thing is about to start moving and grooving and the train is leaving the station. All right, that being said, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.